Time now for our business update, and for that we're joined in studio by Anke Ula. Anke, going to start here in France, and it's day 2 of an annual meeting of the country's largest business lobby.
That's right, Eve. Business leaders are continuing their annual end-of-summer gathering at the HEC Business School just south of Paris. The event is organized by the Medef group and is usually characterized by calls for more pro-business policies from the government. France 24's business editor Stephen Carroll is there, and he joins us now. Stephen, the first day of the event was somewhat overshadowed by Nicolas Hulot's resignation from the government. What's on the agenda today?
Well, today, members at Medef are hoping to focus a little more internationally on issues. There's going to be a lot of discussion of Brexit today. The British Cabinet Office Minister David Lidlington is speaking here this afternoon. Business leaders will be interested to hear what he says about the British government's position on Brexit and the likelihood that there may not be a deal for Britain leaving the European Union. That's something that I spoke about yesterday to Scotland's Minister with responsibility for Brexit, Michael Russell, and he was saying that at this stage a no-deal Brexit looks like a self-fulfilling prophecy because of the amount of attention that the prospect that there won't be an agreement is getting. So that'll be one of the issues on the agenda. Europe as well is going to be a big topic of discussion. The French and German finance ministers are giving a joint speech this afternoon to close the Medef summer school event. They're going to be talking about what they're calling the win-win relationship between France and Germany, and that's really in line with the position that Medef is taking on many of the major political issues facing French businesses, Brexit being one of them, trade disputes being the other. The response to that, the president of Medef says, is more Europe and more European cooperation on these issues. That's going to be one of the big topics of discussion today.
Well, Stephen, normally at this Medef event, the business lobby complains about the government not doing enough for businesses in France. But Emmanuel Macron's administration has passed plenty of measures which actually help companies. How is Medef adapting to this year?
Yeah, it's an interesting change of tone that we've had since President Emmanuel Macron came to power. It's less, as we would have heard in previous years, of calls for less red tape and lower taxes, because businesses have been getting those sorts of measures. Although there were some rumbles of disagreement earlier this week in the upcoming French budget when the finance minister said they would have to delay some planned payroll tax cuts for low-paid workers. And there was some, I suppose, disagreement from the Medef group and from business owners here that shouldn't be delayed because it makes their accounting much more difficult. Many of them had counted on those tax cuts already. So it's not a perfectly smooth relationship, but really the ministers that have come here, and there are plenty of them, the finance minister, the prime minister spoke here yesterday, they are getting a pretty warm reception, and that's because the government is promising to put businesses first, to put innovation first, and to do more to help those companies. There are a couple of perhaps tough times ahead, though. Perhaps there'll be some difficult words over issues like reform of the unemployment benefit system, reform of pensions. The business groups like Medef are very insistent that the cost of labour shouldn't go up, because that is one of the things that they've been fighting for many years. They say it hurts competitiveness for French companies, and they need to ensure that the good measures that were put in place in the past are maintained, that the momentum is maintained. This all at a time, of course, the French economy doing relatively well compared to its previous 10 years in terms of growth. Business confidence is also at a high. So it's a pretty good time to be in the business of running a business here in France. And certainly that's reflected in the discussions that are happening here at the Medef conference.
Well, thanks for that update, Stephen. We'll be checking in with Stephen later from the Medef conference south of Paris.
So tell us, Anke, how are the markets looking today?
Well, we saw a strong open in Europe, with all indexes kicking off the session in positive territory. Automobile stocks seeing a second day of gains in early trading as NAFTA negotiations continue in the United States. Positive picture there. A mixed picture in Asia, with U.S.-China trade tensions looming. The deadline for the next round of U.S. tariffs is just around the corner on September 5th. That's making investors a bit skittish. Chinese markets trading down, with Tokyo and Seoul in the green.
Okay, Anke, thanks a lot for that business update. Anke with